Hello and welcome to our Teaching for Success Inclusive podcast series. I'm your host, Rosa Kemerembe. Today, I would like to talk about the occurrences that have been going on in our nation of Uganda. The heart-breaking tragedies of vehicle accidents that have involved several children and several little lives being snuffed out of this world. As Teaching for Success, our condolences go out to the parents, the siblings, the relatives, the staff, the communities, the friends of these families who have lost their loved ones. Not just the children, but the teachers who have lost their lives, a school administrator, an owner of a school who lost his life, as well as the drivers who lost their lives. When things like this happen, they're very sad. But we shouldn't just leave it there as being empathetic, sympathetic, giving out condolences, being in a season of mourning. We need to learn from these lessons. We need to make sure that these lessons are learned thoroughly so that they do not happen again. Now, currently, school trips have been banned, which I think is a good idea by the Ministry of Education to do that, because everyone needs to take a step back and think, how can we make sure our children are safe? We're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say we're never going to allow children to be on school trips. School trips are good. School trips are fun. And there's nothing wrong with children having fun. I've had some people say, well, most of them are not educational. Well, everything doesn't have to be educational. It's okay for children to have fun. It's okay for them to go and explore their country or other countries and have fun. Okay? Learning doesn't just have to be academic. They can get exposure about all kinds of different things from the places that they visit. That isn't the point. We shouldn't stop school trips, but we should just consider what steps we're going to put in place in order to make those trips safe. Let's start with the little kids, okay? Some of our little kids are going for trips that are quite far. I think a good suggestion could be making sure that our little kids from kindergarten to probably maybe P5 or up to P5, take shorter trips, okay? They can take a trip within their community. They can take a trip within their town. They can take a trip within their district, okay? They don't have to go so far, right? They don't have to go so far. It's not necessary. There's so much to learn around their school community within their district. Now, for the other kids, yes, they can go a little bit farther within the country, but we have to make sure that we plan appropriately. What is the environment like on the journey of these school trips to where the school wants to take the students, right? What are the roads like? Is it a hilly place? Are the roads really bad with a ton of potholes? Do they have trains going across the road? Like, all of those things need to be clearly thought about. Is it necessary for us to take kids from Kampala to Kisoro? Little kids, right? Is that necessary? When you know sometimes how winding and steep the roads are, should we risk? Yes, there are many people who've traveled those roads. Buses go there every single day. But you know what? We cannot afford to risk the lives of our precious children. So those are things that we need to consider. Planning needs to be done, and planning needs to be done with parents and the school administration. Next, when these trips are planned, they do not have to be compulsory, because you are discriminating against parents who cannot afford, unless the school is going to get money together or they're going to fundraise together and make sure every child goes. If you are doing a school trip in your school, every child needs to be able to go if they want to go. No child should be forced to go on a school trip. A parent should be able to say, no, my child is not going to go on this school trip. And we heard on the media of a dad who said, no, he told his children, I'm sorry, not this time. There's certain things that, yeah, friends can go and have a good time, but I'm your father and I'm saying that, you know what, this time you're not going. And parents should have the right to say that. And they should feel okay. Yes, your child will be sad and cry, but you know what? Life is about making choices. These children belong to their parents, and the parents should be able to make that decision. Also, on the media, I watched a lady, I'm not sure whether she was an MP, she was some kind of authority figure, and she was dumbfounded by how many kids were being carried in a minivan. Lots of kids, some sitting on each other. I'm not sure where they were going. It doesn't matter whether it was a school trip or not, whether they were on their way home, right? Just like the borders, when you see 4 students sitting on them, that is not acceptable, because it's not safe. They don't even have helmets. If that border is to crash, what's going to happen to those kids? The driver has a helmet, but the children don't have helmets. We need to stop that in our nation, all right? One seat that was created in a motor vehicle for one person, only one child should sit in it. Or you hire more vehicles to take your children for these trips that you want them to go for. Okay? Cars have a limit. When they are made, they have a limit to the number of children in them. What kind of seating do you have? Right? In different countries, and in different areas around the world, like North America, I'll speak for Canada, the school buses, the seats of the school buses are made a little higher, so that if there's an accident or, the bus stops suddenly, the child, right, will not go flying out of the window because the seat is low, or be propelled, to the front of the vehicle. The seats are made taking that in mind, okay? Some And of course, the buses drive slower than other vehicles for the safety of the children in them. Okay? And as well, some buses will have seat belts, and maybe that is something that we need to consider. I know Uganda has made these fabulous buses. It would be a great thing if they were bought by schools. I don't know how much they are, and maybe not every school can afford them, but maybe seat belts need to be installed in all these vehicles that schools are having trips in, or they should be a bunch of vehicles that are specifically for school trips, that schools can go to this company and hire a bus from this company, where they have buses that are made to make sure that kids are safe. They have seat belts, they have enough seating in them, right, to make sure kids are safe. Another issue, sometimes you see on these school trips, kids standing inside the vehicle, yelling and shouting and singing. It's nice to sing. We're not saying that that's a bad thing, but it can be very distracting for drivers. Okay? So those are things that we need to teach children. And talking about teaching children, one thing that we can do, at least in my school and as an educator, is every beginning of the school year, we have what you call a bus presentation. So someone from a bus company comes with a bus to the school to talk about school safety, bus safety, rather. Okay? They teach the children about how to get on a vehicle safely, how to alight the vehicle safely, how to sit in a vehicle safely without your legs in the aisleway of the vehicle, with your back on the back seat of the vehicle, and not sitting or standing on the seats, not overcrowded on the seats. They talk about emergencies. You know, they talk about not making a ton of noise on the bus. You're quiet, not eating on the bus, not drinking on the bus. And they talk about how to evacuate the buses if there's an accident. Now, that's where I'm talking about buses having, being specialized for school trips, because these school buses have a hatch at the top on the ceiling of the bus, which opens, and an emergency exit at the back. Our vehicles don't have that for kids. So if there's a rollover, it's so hard to get kids out of those vehicles that might catch fire or something, right? So they're taught how to evacuate a bus if it's overturned, if there's some emergency going on, and where to go. Where do you wait when you come off a bus? The bus is crashed another vehicle. You've come out of the bus. Where do you go? We don't want kids standing in the middle of the road and getting hit again by other cars, right? So these bus presentations, you know, why not invest in them? They don't cost a lot to have. Maybe your school has never had one, but collaborate with a bus company, with a company that rents out vans and drivers, and have that conversation with them and have those bus presentations to keep the children safe. Okay? Make sure that the drivers are safe. I was speaking to a teacher in another school, and they said what they do in their school is they make sure that they hire vehicles from a certain university, because they know that that university makes sure that their buses are well looked after. They check them regularly, the oil, the tires, making sure the tread is still deep, the wheels are working, the brakes are working, the fluids that are needed in the car to make it run properly are working, the wipers are working. You know, they make sure that there's enough fuel in the car, they check. So the onus is for the administrators in the school to make sure that the students are going on vehicles that are roadworthy and that are safe and that have drivers with sense in their heads, that are not going to be speeding. Very important. Then lastly, what I'd like to talk about is first aid. every vehicle carrying kids for a trip or an excursion should have a first aid kit in there. The teachers accompanying the students should all have first aid training and CPR training. Okay, so that when there's an accident and you're waiting for an ambulance which is stuck in a traffic jam or coming from wherever or doesn't have fuel or the police are not able to help, immediately there are people who can help. Okay, so make sure that teachers, at least there are some designated teachers, not all the teachers, but at least 3-4 teachers in a school go for CPR and first aid training to make sure that they can support and attend to kids when there's been an accident. Okay, make sure that along the routes are planned properly so that if there's an emergency, there's some people, the bus is not in the middle of nowhere where people can't get help. Okay, make sure that teachers' phones are charged, the driver has enough airtime and data and is able to call for help if there's an emergency. Children with allergies have their EpiPens, have their medication with them. Okay, if possible, have a nurse or a doctor travel on these trips. Yes, you'll have to pay for them. People are saying they're expensive, but hey, your child's life is worth every single bit of money. This is the best thing we can do to honor the lives of the departed, is by making sure our Ministry of Education, my prayer is to make sure that there's policies in schools to make sure this doesn't happen. Let's put these things in place. And if these things are not in place, no school trips. School inspectors, that's your job. You need to be going to schools and making sure that all these things are being done. That's your job. We can't now start blaming the little people. No, it starts from the top. The people at the top, if they do the job, what they're supposed to do and supervise properly, then the people at the bottom are going to definitely do the right thing because they're accountable to you. And you're also holding them accountable to do what they need to do. Okay? So I hope that we are not going to forget. The parents of these children are never going to forget. And we as a nation should never forget what's happened. And we can't have this happening. Let's put these things in place. And let's do it now. There's no time for waiting. We cannot afford to lose one more life. We can't. So, this is your host, Rosa Kemerebe, from Teaching for Success. Let's keep our children safe. Let's teach for success.